And what's interesting to me is that in the state itself, and this applies to Southern California, to LA, to Orange County, to San Diego, the people that tend to stay are those that are in the most affluent portions of our population, the richest and the oldest. And the people that tend to be migrating out are people who really need to find, or feel they need to find opportunities elsewhere. The other phenomenon that's occurring, and this is occurring, if you sort of take a broader picture now, not just in California, but all over America, there's a trend to the suburbs or to even rural areas. And a lot of that is what you have insinuated a few minutes ago. It has to do with the fact that people and their businesses are substantially more footloose than they have been historically. We're not tied to a commute, or we're not tied to a factory or to an office in the way that we have been tied to all those things in the past, which means that we can sort of live everywhere, anywhere. And that has huge implications, doesn't it?
Location-free jobs, yeah. And we had an acceleration of that during COVID, and some of that has stuck. Some of it was a long-term trend anyway. I mean, as an example, customer service centers and call centers that operated for the airlines or customer service for tech companies. You remember just 10 years ago, they used to rent these big giant call centers. And then they realized that they could set up technology where people could work from home. They could take a break, they could take care of the elderly, they could retain workers they couldn't retain when they forced them to commute to a call center. And so it was, a great blessing for these companies that they could keep and retain people and tell them you can work at home. So we have more location-free workers than ever. And as you said, that has huge implications about who's moving where.
So in this kind of a situation, there are winners and there are losers. And we can talk about winners being suburban and rural areas, and losers being the more urban parts of our cities. And it's not just coastal California. It's not just West Coastal Los Angeles or West Coastal San Diego or Orange County or San Francisco. It's also places like Chicago. I mean, people moving out of sort of the center parts of Chicagoland and going into the suburbs. It's happening in New York City. People moving from New York City out of the city into the northern and western suburbs, and it's happening in Florida. People moving out of Miami and into the suburban areas. It's happening all over the country. There's that sort of intra-urban, intra-regional movement.
So there's 2 points related to what you're bringing out. One is that when you only have to go to work 2 days or 3 days a week, or sometimes not at all, you can live in satellite cities and further away, maybe an hour away commute, take the train in, that you wouldn't have considered if you were going in every day. So people have spread out. Our bid rent curves, which used to be very dense, have spread out. Transportation cost is lower when you don't need to go in as often. The other point is that the first tier cities, the expensive cities, have tended to be the losers. Chicago, San Francisco, LA, New York. The second tier cities and third tier cities have been the beneficiaries. Even some pretty good sized cities, Las Vegas, Austin, Phoenix, have been beneficiaries of this movement away from the really expensive cities. So the lower commuting costs, the spreading out, and then the first tier cities losing to the benefit of second tier cities. So that's definitely a clear pattern that looks like it will be permanent.